On June 25th, 2009, the world stopped for a moment. One of the most famous people in history, Michael Jackson, was gone. But what happened next was something few people expected. As the shocking news spread, cameras captured raw and emotional reactions from celebrities around the world. Some broke down in tears. Others could barely find words. And a few revealed stories about Michael that the public had never heard before. These live reactions showed a side of fame, friendship, and loss that millions will never forget. June 25th, 2009, began like any other summer day. People went to work. Kids played outside. News channels followed their usual stories. But within a few hours, everything changed. At first, reports started appearing online that Michael Jackson had been rushed to a hospital in Los Angeles. The information was confusing. Some news outlets reported that he was in serious condition. Others said very little. Fans around the world quickly flooded the internet, searching for answers. Then came the moment nobody wanted to believe. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, had died at the age of 50. The announcement spread across television screens, radio stations, websites, and mobile phones almost instantly. For millions of people, it felt impossible. Michael Jackson was more than a singer. He was a global icon whose music had crossed languages, cultures, and generations. People gathered around televisions in disbelief. Radio stations interrupted regular programming. News anchors struggled to hide their emotions as they delivered updates to viewers. What made the shock even greater was that Michael appeared to be preparing for a major comeback. He had recently announced his highly anticipated This Is It concert series in London. Fans were excited to see him return to the stage. Tickets had sold at an incredible pace. Many believed a new chapter of his career was just beginning. Instead, the world was suddenly facing an unexpected goodbye. Outside the hospital, crowds began to grow. Fans cried openly. Some held albums and posters. Others simply stood in silence, unable to process what had happened. Meanwhile, inside newsrooms around the world, producers rushed to cover one of the biggest entertainment stories in modern history. Reporters contacted friends, family members, musicians, actors, and industry insiders. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. How could someone so famous, so influential, and so loved be gone so suddenly? But while fans were mourning across the globe, another story was unfolding at the same time. Cameras were capturing the immediate reactions of celebrities who had worked with Michael, admired him, or simply grown up watching his incredible career. Some reactions were heartbreaking. Others were completely unexpected. And a few would reveal just how deeply Michael Jackson had touched the lives of people behind the spotlight. Before we hear those emotional moments, there's something important to ask. What do you think was Michael Jackson's greatest impact on the world? His music, his performances, or his influence on pop culture? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What happened next showed a side of Hollywood and the music industry that few people had ever seen. As the news spread across the world, television networks quickly switched to special coverage. Reporters were trying to confirm details. Fans were gathering outside hospitals. Social media was exploding with messages of shock. But one of the most unforgettable parts of that day came from the celebrities who learned the news while cameras were rolling. Many of them were not prepared. Some were in the middle of interviews. Others were appearing on live television. In those moments, viewers saw reactions that were completely real and unscripted. One of the most talked about reactions came from actress and singer Farrah Fawcett's memorial coverage, which was already dominating television that day. Then suddenly, the focus shifted. News anchors received breaking updates. Michael Jackson's death had become the story nobody expected. Across television studios, the mood changed instantly. Reporters who had spent years covering entertainment news struggled to stay professional. Some paused for several seconds before speaking. Others admitted they were shocked. For many celebrities, Michael was not just another star. He was a symbol of an entire era. Singer and songwriter Mariah Carey released a heartfelt statement, saying her heart was broken. She described Michael as a legend whose influence would never disappear. Around the world, fans shared her feelings. Madonna was also deeply affected. She later spoke about crying when she heard the news. Like millions of others, she could not believe that one of the most recognizable figures in music history was suddenly gone. Then there was Britney Spears. For her generation, Michael Jackson had been one of the biggest inspirations. She called the news devastating and spoke about how much she admired him throughout her career. Meanwhile, actors, musicians, athletes, and television personalities continued reacting throughout the day. Some struggled to finish interviews. Others fought back tears. What viewers witnessed was something unusual in the entertainment industry. Celebrity interviews are often carefully planned. Public statements are usually polished. But on that day, emotions were raw. There was no time to prepare, no time to rehearse, only genuine shock. As tributes continued pouring in, one message kept appearing again and again. Michael Jackson was not simply famous. He had changed the entertainment world forever. However, while many stars were sharing emotional messages, a few music legends were preparing to speak publicly about someone they had known personally for decades. Their stories would reveal a side of Michael that most fans had never seen. And some of those memories would become the most emotional tributes of all. If you enjoyed documentaries that uncover the hidden stories behind fame, success, and unforgettable moments in history, subscribe and join us for more stories that continue to surprise audiences around the world. What Happened Next showed just how much respect Michael Jackson had earned from the people who understood his talent better than anyone else. As tributes continued to pour in, some of the most emotional reactions came from people who truly understood what Michael Jackson had accomplished. These were not just fans. These were artists who had spent their own lives creating music, performing on stages, and dealing with the pressures of fame. And many of them could barely find the words. When news of Michael's death reached the music industry, there was a feeling that something much bigger than a celebrity death had happened. For many artists, it felt like the end of an era. One of the most powerful reactions came from Quincy Jones. For those who may not know, Quincy Jones was more than a producer. He helped shape some of Michael's most successful albums, including Off the Wall, Thriller, and Bad. Together, they created music that changed pop culture forever. When Quincy spoke publicly, his grief was obvious. He described Michael as family. He talked about the incredible talent he had witnessed from a young age and how difficult it was to accept that Michael was gone. Then there was Lionel Richie. Richie later admitted that the news left him completely stunned. He said he struggled to process what had happened. Like many others, he kept hoping the reports were somehow wrong. But they were not. As reality set in, artists around the world began sharing memories. Some remembered Michael as a perfectionist who worked harder than almost anyone else. Others remembered his kindness behind the scenes. Many spoke about how he inspired them to dream bigger. What made these tributes so emotional was that they revealed a different side of Michael Jackson. The public knew the superstar, the moonwalk, the sold-out concerts, the record-breaking albums. But his friends and colleagues knew the person behind all of that. They remembered the long hours in recording studios, the nervous excitement before performances, the quiet moments away from cameras. And those memories carried a special weight. However, not everyone was speaking from the music world. Soon, some of Hollywood's biggest stars would begin sharing their own stories. Many had crossed paths with Michael over the years. Some knew him personally. Others admired him from a distance. But almost all of them agreed on one thing. There would never be another Michael Jackson. And as more stories emerged, people began discovering surprising details about the man behind the legend. Many people watching this have faced moments when someone important suddenly disappeared from their lives. Those moments remind us how quickly everything can change. Sometimes the people who inspire us most leave behind lessons that last far longer than they do. What Hollywood revealed next would make Michael's story even more unforgettable. By the time the sun began to set on June 25th, 2009, tributes were coming from every corner of the entertainment world. Musicians were mourning. Fans were gathering in cities across the globe. And now, some of Hollywood's biggest stars were beginning to share their memories. What made these stories special was that they showed a side of Michael Jackson that many people never saw. Away from the concerts, the headlines, and the crowds, there was another Michael, a quieter Michael, a more personal Michael. Actress Brooke Shields delivered one of the most emotional tributes. She had known Michael for many years and often spoke about their friendship. During interviews after his death, she described him as funny, caring, and someone who understood what it felt like to grow up under constant public attention. Her words painted a picture very different from the one often seen in newspapers. She remembered a friend, not a superstar, not a global icon, just a human being. Actor and comedian Eddie Murphy also expressed sadness over the loss. Like many entertainers, he recognized the enormous impact Michael had on popular culture. His influence could be seen everywhere, from music videos and dance performances to fashion and entertainment itself. Meanwhile, actor Macaulay Culkin, who had been close to Michael during his younger years, later defended his friend and spoke about the personal side of their relationship. For Culkin, the headlines often missed the person he knew. These stories began revealing an important truth. The public saw Michael Jackson through a spotlight, but the people who spent time with him often saw someone very different. Someone who loved creating. Someone who never stopped chasing perfection. Someone who carried enormous pressure every single day. And that pressure was something many celebrities understood. Because fame can look glamorous from the outside, but behind closed doors, it often comes with loneliness, criticism, and expectations that never seem to end. As Hollywood stars reflected on Michael's life, many spoke not only about his success, but also about the challenges he faced. The world remembered the records he broke, the sold-out stadiums, the historic performances. But his friends remembered the struggles too. And those struggles would soon become impossible to ignore. Because while millions were celebrating Michael's legacy, another conversation was beginning. A conversation about the pressures, controversies, and personal battles that followed him throughout his life. And that story would lead to one of the most emotional events the world had ever seen. The memorial that brought millions together. Less than 2 weeks after Michael Jackson's death, the world witnessed something extraordinary. On July 7th, 2009, millions of people stopped what they were doing and turned on their televisions. Others watched online. Some gathered with family and friends. Around the globe, people wanted to say goodbye to a man whose music had become part of their lives. The public memorial at the Staples Center in Los Angeles was unlike anything most people had ever seen. Fans traveled from different countries. News organizations from around the world arrived. And some of the biggest names in entertainment gathered under one roof. The atmosphere was emotional from the very beginning. People were not simply attending a memorial. They were witnessing the farewell of one of the most famous entertainers in human history. As speakers stepped onto the stage, stories began to emerge. Stories about Michael's talent. Stories about his kindness. Stories about the moments that happened away from cameras. Magic Johnson shared memories of their friendship. Brooke Shields spoke again, remembering Michael's humor and warmth. Others talk about the incredible impact he had on music, culture, and generations of fans. But then came the moment that many people still remember today. Michael's daughter, Paris Jackson, walked to the microphone. Until that point, the world had rarely heard her speak publicly. Standing before millions of viewers, she struggled through her emotions. Then she shared a simple message. She said that since she was born, her father had been the best father anyone could imagine. Her voice broke. The crowd fell silent. Many people watching at home began crying. Even some celebrities on stage appeared deeply emotional. It was one of the rare moments when the world stopped seeing Michael Jackson as a superstar. Instead, they saw him as a father, as a human being, as someone deeply loved by his family. That single moment changed the tone of the memorial. The event was no longer only about records, awards, or fame. It became about loss. Real loss. Human loss. And for many viewers, it was the most heartbreaking part of the entire day. Yet even as the memorial celebrated Michael's life, new stories continued emerging. Friends, colleagues, and industry insiders began sharing memories that had never been told publicly before. Some were inspiring. Some were surprising. And a few revealed hidden struggles that Michael had carried for years. The world thought it knew everything about Michael Jackson. But after his death, people began discovering there was much more to his story. After the memorial ended, many people believed Michael Jackson's story had finally been told. But in reality, another chapter was only beginning. In the weeks and months that followed, friends, former co-workers, dancers, producers, and people who worked closely with Michael started sharing memories that the public had never heard before. Some stories revealed just how hard he worked, Many performers are talented, some are dedicated. But according to those who work with Michael, he was different. They described someone who could spend countless hours perfecting a single move, a single note, or even a single second of performance. Nothing was ever good enough. He always wanted it to be better. This relentless pursuit of perfection helped create some of the most unforgettable moments in entertainment history. But it also came at a cost. Behind the success, many people describe a man carrying enormous pressure. For decades, Michael lived under a level of public attention that very few people could understand. Every decision became a headline. Every mistake became front-page news. Every personal struggle became public discussion. While fans celebrated his achievements, Michael often faced criticism, rumors, and intense media scrutiny. Several people close to him later said that the world often saw the celebrity, but rarely saw the human being behind the image. And that image became increasingly difficult to carry. As more interviews surfaced, another theme appeared again and again. Michael never stopped creating. Even during difficult periods of his life, he continued thinking about music, performances, and new ideas. That is partly why his plan This Is It concerts captured so much attention before his death. Many believed they would mark a major comeback, a chance for Michael to remind the world why he had become the king of pop. Sadly, that comeback never happened. Yet something unexpected occurred after his passing. A new generation discovered his work. Young listeners who had never seen him perform live started watching his music videos. They learned the dances. They studied the performances. They became fans. In many ways, Michael's influence grew even after he was gone. And that may be one of the most remarkable parts of his story. Because while a life can end, an impact can continue. What do you think keeps Michael Jackson's legacy alive today? Is it his music, his performances, or the emotions people still feel when they hear his songs? Let us know in the comments. But there was one final question that remained. More than a decade later, why do those celebrity reactions still matter? The answer reveals the true size of Michael Jackson's legacy. More than a decade has passed since June 25, 2009. The news alerts are gone. The television specials have ended. The crowds outside the hospital have disappeared. Yet the reactions from that day continue to be watched by millions of people around the world. Why? Because those moments captured something rare. They captured truth. For a brief period, fame disappeared. Public images disappeared. Carefully prepared statements disappeared. What remained were real human emotions. People who had spent their lives in front of cameras suddenly found themselves struggling to process a loss that shocked the entire world. And through their reactions, viewers gained a deeper understanding of Michael Jackson's impact. The world already knew he was successful. The numbers prove that. Record-breaking albums, historic tours, countless awards, global recognition. But success alone does not create the kind of reaction that followed Michael's death. The tears, the disbelief, the emotional tributes, those came from something much deeper. They came from influence. For many artists, Michael changed what was possible. He transformed music videos into cinematic events. He raised expectations for live performances. He inspired generations of singers, dancers, producers, and entertainers. Even today, traces of Michael Jackson's influence can be seen across the entertainment industry. His style, his creativity, his commitment to excellence, his ability to connect with audiences, all of it continues to inspire new talent. And perhaps that is why the reactions from 2009 still resonate. They remind us that behind every legend is a human story. A story filled with dreams, achievements, struggles, mistakes, triumph, and moments of vulnerability. Michael Jackson's story contained all of those things. His life was complex. His career was historic. His impact was undeniable. And when the world lost him, millions of people, famous and unknown alike, felt that loss together. That is why those celebrity reactions remain so powerful. They were not just reactions to the death of a performer. They were reactions to the end of a cultural era, an era that helped shape music, entertainment, and popular culture for generations. As we look back on those emotional moments, one thing becomes clear. Michael Jackson may be gone, but the influence he left behind continues to reach people all over the world. And every time someone watches an old performance, learns one of his dance moves, or discovers his music for the first time, a small part of that legacy continues. But this is only one story of fame, success, and the hidden emotions behind celebrity life. In our next documentary, we'll uncover another shocking chapter from the world of entertainment, one that changed lives forever. As news of Michael Jackson's death spread across continents, something remarkable began happening. People who had never met him felt as if they had lost someone they knew personally. In New York, fans gathered in Times Square. In London, crowds sang his songs in public squares. In Tokyo, Paris, Mumbai, and countless other cities, people left flowers, candles, letters, and photographs. The morning was unlike almost anything seen before for an entertainer. Many younger viewers today may find it difficult to understand just how famous Michael Jackson was. He was not simply a singer. He was a global phenomenon. His music reached countries where people spoke different languages and lived completely different lives. Yet somehow, they all knew Michael Jackson. Television stations around the world interrupted normal programming. Radio stations played his songs for hours. Stores sold out of his albums within days. Videos of the performances suddenly gained millions of new viewers. It felt as though the world wanted one more chance to experience his talent. And something else happened. People began sharing personal stories. Some remembered hearing Thriller for the first time. Others talked about learning the moonwalk as children. Many said Michael's music had helped them through difficult moments in life. These stories showed that his influence went far beyond entertainment. He had become part of people's memories, part of their childhood, part of their personal journeys. But while fans were celebrating his legacy, investigators were trying to understand exactly what happened during Michael's final days. And the answers they uncovered would create headlines around the world. What happened behind closed doors will become one of the most discussed chapters in Michael Jackson's story. Years have passed since Michael Jackson's death, yet his presence remains everywhere. New artists continue studying his performances. Dancers continue copying his moves. Filmmakers continue analyzing his music videos. And fans continue discovering his work for the very first time. Very few entertainers achieve that kind of lasting impact. Many stars become popular. Only a handful become timeless. Michael became timeless. His album, Thriller, remains one of the best-selling albums in history. His music videos changed how artists promoted their songs. His performances raised the standard for live entertainment. And his influence can still be seen in today's biggest stars. But perhaps the most powerful part of Michael's legacy is not found in records or awards. It is found in emotion. More than 15 years after his passing, people still react strongly when they hear his music. They remember where they were when they learned of his death. They remember the performances that amazed them. They remember the songs that became part of their lives. That is something statistics cannot measure. And that is why the celebrity reactions from 2009 remain so meaningful. They captured a historic moment, a moment when the entertainment world paused, a moment when rivals, friends, fans, and fellow artists came together, a moment when millions realized they were witnessing the end of an extraordinary chapter in cultural history. Michael Jackson's life was filled with triumphs, challenges, controversy, creativity, and unforgettable achievements. But above all, it was a life that left a mark on the world, and that mark remains visible today. Because legends may leave the stage, but true legacies never disappear.